Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the North East Non-League Show. Looking back with, sponsored by Beerwatch TV, Sunderland West End, Durham City FC, Jade Bell, and proud to support If You Care Share Foundation. Join us tonight, Leon Ryan. Leon, thank you very much for coming on tonight.
No, you're welcome. I've been looking forward to this for the last couple of weeks.
Oh, mate, honestly, when I write all these interviews, and it brings back memories for you, for myself. So I can't wait to kind of pass them back to yourself, because there's some fantastic memories going through them, and the amount of trophies and medals, it's absolutely fantastic. So starting with them early days, and obviously starting out with Borough from 12-year-old through to 20, they're always known as a great setup at a youth academy. How did you enjoy your time there, and who was the players in and around that age group at your point?
Yeah, I loved it. It was a great experience. I was at Man United School of Excellence from sort of 10 to 11. And then I got picked up a couple of trials at Middlesbrough. And I was there, obviously, as you say, from 12 to 20. And the contrast to what it was when I was young to what it was as I was a full-time footballer, it was night and day. It's renowned for having a superb setup in terms of accelerating players into the first team and the facilities and the nostalgia of playing for a Premier League club, I guess what it was back then. So, yeah, I mean, I was actually down there today. My little boy is
Nice,
trying to follow in the footsteps. He's at Middlesbrough Academy. So I was down there today. So I always enjoy going down and bumping into some familiar faces and seeing the club and stuff. So yeah, really good.
No, brilliant. And like you say, some of the players that were coming through at that point, the players that were just in the first team who you would look up to. I mean, was there much involved with the first team and kind of training, traveling with them? And I mean, some of the players that I had at the time was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I guess not from my side, but we had people like Stewie Downing and Stu Barnaby, Brad Jones, who went on to play for Liverpool,
yes, yeah.
Fulham, and a couple of other clubs as a goalkeeper. So that was seeing them progressing through the youth development sides, because we were 17s and 19s when you had reserves, and people like Stewie Downing and Stewie Barnaby, they skipped a couple of the steps and went straight to the first team. But it was just nice to be around. I guess Middlesbrough were on a crest of a wave. You know, just had Ravanelli and Emerson and Janino, having Alan Boksic and Emerson and Janino and people like that. It was a really, really vibrant place to be. It's synonymous, I guess, within the North East, but I guess nationally as well for the standard of football and footballers that Middlesbrough produce. So it brings back some really good memories whenever I go down there. But some really, really good players Middlesbrough hand through their hands. Look at all of the North East clubs, really.
Yeah,
you know, we're a bit like England in terms of being marooned from everywhere else in the North East. You've got Sunderland, Middlesbrough, and Newcastle, I guess, from the professional clubs. The likes of Hartlepool and Darlington, not so much. So you get a lot of good players getting through these academies as well in the North East.
Definitely. And leaving Borough and going to play in the Finnish Premier League, and we see quite a lot of players now go kind of stepping out of academies, going abroad. It's a great chance not to go out there, but also like to grow yourself, isn't it? Grow up at that age. How important was that to go out there and learn something new?
Yeah, I had a bad injury in my last year of my contract, and I was out for the best part of 10 months. So it was a period of time where I'd just been released, and I had maybe 2 or 3 months left in my contract, and an opportunity had come to go out and play out in Finland, because the UK or the English season finishes May, June, dark time, and the Scandinavian season then kicks in and starts.
Right.
It was an opportunity to actually go out there and get me fitness back, really, but get back playing football, because I hadn't played football for sort of 9-10 months. So it was strange, because I'd lived in digs down at Darlington, and every time I came home, you know, my mum and dad did everything for us in terms of cooking meals. So I then took a chance to go over to Finland to play in a team called KTP in the Finnish Premier League. And it was just a really, really good experience, not just from a football point of view, but I guess from a grown-up point of view. It was
definitely.
By myself, Louise, my girlfriend at the time, my wife currently now, she came out with me for a couple of weeks. But it was just a great lifestyle. But the football was very reminiscent of non-league football or low league football. And I was actually centre forward then when I was a professional footballer or making me way. So I went over in Finland, and I ended up scoring, I think, 12 or 14 goals in that season. And it was just good getting back playing football. You know, playing with Finnish teams, playing against Helsinki in front of 40,000, which was my first game. Just a really good experience of playing in a different culture, a different understanding of what football means to everybody else. But being English and coming over and playing in these Scandinavian countries, English is the English Premier League at the time is everybody's dream. It was a really good stepping stone for me. I learned a lot about how to conduct yourself as a footballer, how to conduct yourself when you were, I guess, semi-professional football, but a professional club, an understanding of how to conduct yourself and try and make your way as a footballer. And I really, really enjoyed my time. And I think that gave me a thirst for football again, because being out for so long in my last year at Middlesbrough, and then getting the news that I'd been released, and then really taking a step into the unknown, it was a great experience for me. I absolutely loved it.
No, fantastic. Question from Stephen coming in. Stephen, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to get you back on next week as well. Even lads, what was the difference between English Football League and the Finnish League, would you say?
Just quality. I mean, we played in the Premier League, and teams like Helsinki and Tampa, which were completely professional full time. It was just a standard, you know. We were probably a mid-table, bottom of the league side, bottom of the table side, and we wouldn't compete probably in the conference in terms of the ability of that team. It was policemen, it was ex-forces, it was secretaries, lawyers. You know, we were all training part-time. The standard wasn't as what you would expect as a Premier League. You'd be looking at probably conference level.
No, really good though. After Finland, you spent 6 months at Scunthorpe and a year with Halifax in the conference. Some good levels as well. How did you find your spells at them clubs, obviously coming back over from Finland, settling back in England?
I loved it. I was playing and scoring goals in Scunthorpe in Finland, and I had an opportunity to stay there. But obviously the dream was to be a professional footballer in England. And I'd probably given up the ghost of being a Premier League player and earning a couple of $100,000 a week. My aim was to get into the Football League, and I wanted to, and I still do now. I'm very proud of appearances I made as a professional footballer in the English.
Oh, definitely.
And an opportunity to come back and play in whatever level I could get to was my aim. So coming back, and I had a trial for Scunthorpe. We played Grimsby in a sort of pre-season friendly for reserves, and I scored a hat-trick. And Brian Laws, who was the manager at the time, and his number 2, Russ Wilcox, they were watching a game, and the following day I went in and said, right, yeah, he's a contract for remaining season. 250 quid a week. I thought I'd absolutely made it. I thought, like, that's it. This £250 is gonna elevate me to a professional footballer. So having an opportunity to playing with Martin Carruthers and Steve Torpey, people like John Beresford and Peter Beagrie, who was at Scunthorpe at the time, was just an absolutely fantastic experience, because my debut was away at Lincoln, which is a derby. Came on 10 minutes to go, had a one-on-one, should have scored, missed the one-on-one, and it's just small margins about, I guess, football. But I absolutely loved it, going to Doncaster and Mansfield and Macclesfield and all these different stadiums and standards was really good. You know, you tend to find out the experienced footballers know how to handle these occasions, and they know how to manage the expectations. It was just a really, really good time from Scunthorpe. Unfortunately, contract came to the end, and the name escapes me now, but they signed a centre forward who scored bag full of goals and then went on to play for Celtic. I think it was Hooper.
Yes,
Hooper.
yeah.
So I think the toss-up was between me and him, and by the looks of it, I think they got the right.
But after, obviously, the travelling all over, like you say, up through Finland, back into the Football League, you then joined Whitley Bay in 2004. At that point, was it nice, after all the travelling, just to be nice to settle back into the North East and find a club in Whitley Bay?
Yeah, I mean, after Scunthorpe, I went to Halifax, and again, I lived away, and I was playing, and I was in and out the side, and I was living down in Halifax, and I was coming home after the game. It was just really difficult because my life had been in the North East. You know, family and was really wanting to get back to the north and try and either get as high as I could or just get back playing football. Came back, and a couple of good friends, a lad called Ben Ryan and Paddy Little, took me to Whitley Bay and just said, look, this is the non-league scene, because I didn't really know anything about it.
Yeah.
And we went, and it was John Charlton, Jackie Charlton's son, and Graham Clark were the joint managers at the time. And that was an eye opener, because I used to turn up for training in my Middlesbrough training kit, and nice clean boots, and I just didn't understand the difference between taking your own boots home and cleaning your own kit and not having a training kit, playing on bobbly pitches. But Whitley Bay is one of these football clubs, and I was fortunate enough to play for them on 2 other separate occasions. It's a real old school, family loved club, and absolutely loved cutting my teeth at non-league and signing for Whitley Bay.
No, really good. Like I say, I've just off doing the shows now. I met a couple of great mates already from who look after Whitley Bay, kind of do all the media side, and it's like you say, it's really family orientated. Absolutely fantastic what they do down there as well. Just before we get on the next chapter, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone that's watching, smashing the double figures already. Absolutely fantastic. If you really want to as well, get them comments in. We'll go through as many as we can throughout the show as well. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe. It does help the channel grow as well. We're getting on to the next chapter, 2004-05. Good 5th place in the finish in the season as well, and a 2-0 win against Newcastle Benfield. Did you enjoy your first full season there?
I loved it. I converted from a centre forward to a centre half. I put my hand up, I think, in a training session to say, look, I'll play centre half. And to be honest, I never looked back. It was a real different challenge, because I'd used to being at the other end of a pitch. But I played quite a lot of games when I was at Middlesbrough Academy in midfield and centre half at certain games, and I really enjoyed it. And I guess now looking back at my time, I probably wish I had a stab of being a professional footballer as a centre half, taking all up them years ago. Absolutely loved it. It was a baptism of fire. You playing against 32, 34, 35-year-old centre forwards who didn't give any care or credence about you being a professional footballer before. So you getting elbowed in the face and your shirt ripped off you and punched and kicked when the referee wasn't looking. It was the first few games. I didn't know where I was or what was happening. I thought, this is not football. This is not what I was used to. But 3 or 4 months of the season, I realised that it was a fantastic level of football played by some really, really good players.
Evening, Tony. Thank you very much for watching. Just mentioned there, which some lovely comments coming in. I loved me Saturday afternoons watching Whitley Bay in those days. Glory days. Had a class team. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. There were. 2006 comes around and you joined Durham City as captain. Did you enjoy your time there? And what's your kind of thoughts on seeing the club over the last kind of decade, the way the state it's getting into? Obviously, fingers crossed now moving forward, but it's sad times, hasn't it been?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first came into non-league football, Durham City were the pinnacle for me in my eyes, and I didn't really know much about Blythe and Gateshead, but New Ferrens Park, a pitch, it was always a carpet. Sunderland reserves played there. Some really, really good footballers, and that was, for me, that was a pinnacle of playing for Durham. I remember we just won the cup final for Whitley Bay. I was captain the Northumberland Senior Cup, and Hicker and Clarkey had took the job at Durham, and Durham were trying to do a bit like what Real Madrid did. They were trying to get, and I'm not putting myself as a Galactico here, but they were trying to get all of the best players. They're cherry picking all of the best players from the Northeast. And they said, I tell you what, we're going to try and form a squad which can go on and win everything. So that pre-season was not just the hardest from a physical point of view, but actually the standard of players. All of them had played in one capacity or another, professional football. You had you had some really, really Danny Brunskill, obviously, but Gary Pearson. You had Anth McStay. You had really, really good footballers who played football at a much higher level than what we were playing at. So I absolutely loved it. I learned off some really, really good players. Management had changed. I think the managers got sacked 3 or 4 months into the season. I think we were third. And it just wasn't working because we had this real astronomical budget. We brought in a different regime, and that's when I was made captain of Durham. I was there for 18 months, and I think I think I'd left. If I'm honest, I left Durham prematurely. I think I left for the wrong reasons. My best friend Gary Pearson sadly lost his life not so long ago. He'd moved to Nissan.
Right.
And he was in my ear the whole time. Come to Nissan. I left Durham. Typically, which is that you'll see as a bit of a trend. I left just as Durham won a bit of a crest of a wave, and when I left, they ended up winning 3 or 4 leagues in a row. And a lot of the players say it's because I left. But I went to Nissan, and that's probably the worst decision I made from a personal point of view, to leave to Nissan. I left for the wrong reasons. I left to get more money. I left because a couple of my friends were there, and it was one of the biggest regrets. Nothing against Nissan or the management or the chairman. It was really, really good people there, but it wasn't a proper football club in comparison to what Durham was. So it was a 12-month period I went to Nissan, and you know, I was always looking over my shoulders to what Durham were doing. It was one of those things. You make a decision, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, but it's one of the regrets I have.
Yeah. Question coming in from Liam. Thank you, Liam, very much for watching and for your question as well. My question would be, if you could go back in time and give advice to the younger Leon and young lads coming through now, what would it be?
I think if anybody who knows me now is to what I wasn't, and I think that's Liam there, who was one of my Middlesbrough teammates I think we played together for 6 or 7 years.
Right.
Liam, one of the best left backs I've ever played with. I wasn't, if I'm honest with you, I wasn't dedicated. My life wasn't football. My life was, I wanted to be a footballer and everything that came with it. If I was a footballer now, if I had my time now, and this is not me being big-headed or blowing me trumpet, but the Leon Ryan I am now, in terms of how I conduct myself and the drive I've got now, I think I would have made it in some capacity. Definitely not a Premier League player earning a couple of $100,000 a week, but it wasn't. I looked at it as it was a job, but it was more of a stature thing. I really wish I could be a little bit more. I wish I was more dedicated. I wish ate correctly. I wish I didn't dedicate as much time as to going out on nights out with the friends. You know, I'm having that experience now with my little boy, and yes, he's only 11-year-old, but I'm trying to instill in him. You get one chance. You get one chance at this, and you know, that's something that I've had to manage through the years of real ups and downs, of thinking actually what could have been if I just give myself the best opportunity. So you are probably 1 or 2% of a population in your age category who get an opportunity to be a scholar, and then a YTS, and then a professional footballer, and you just have to sacrifice absolutely everything, because there's always a better player who's either coming into the academy or wants to be in the academy. And if you give it your best and it's not good enough, and that's what I always say to Harry, and I always say to anybody else really in that environment, if you give your best and it's not good enough, you can hold your hand up. And my biggest regret is I didn't give everything to it when I was 16, 17, 18, 19 really. Then were the key years that I probably just took my eye off the ball, and I wasn't going out drinking every single night. It was maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks, but that little 2 or 3% is a 2 or 3% that you either make it or you don't. And when I got released at 20-year-old, I had no GCSEs. I had nothing to fall back on, because at 15 or 16, when I signed my contract, I thought I was going to be a professional footballer. You know, I didn't worry about sitting GCSEs. And, you know, one of the hardest things when I was 25, 26 is sitting down, resitting me English and maths. So I know I've drifted away from the topic there, but 2 things: you've got to dedicate absolutely everything you've got if you get that opportunity, but also keep a focus on that. Once football's not there, you've got to have something else to fall back on, and that's the 2 things that I missed out on massively. But you play catch up in later life.
Definitely, I think enjoyment as well. I mean, the amount of games I've watched over the last couple of seasons, obviously the Northern League games where you've been close to the action, and like the players that they seem it's almost like it's a chore that they've got to go and play, that they've got some talent, but I've got to go and play on a Saturday afternoon, right? Are we finished now? I'm just going to leave straight away. No going back to the pub and stuff like that. And I mean, I ruptured my Achilles a couple of years ago and never played since. And I'm looking at these like kids that's coming through now. They're just not bothered about wanting to play football and enjoy it and like be a part of a team. It frustrates us so much, and there just doesn't be any enjoyment. They just want to be like on the Xboxes or just doing something different. It's horrible to see, isn't it?
It's a different generation. It's a different mindset, and it goes like that. I mean, every time I go back to Middlesbrough to watch Harry, and I, see Liam's message popping up there, and speaking to Liam and a few of the boys, I remember the first time that I'd signed my schoolboy with Viv Anderson and Steve McLaren at the Riverside. And then I remember walking through the door at 16, getting your training kit and getting your 4 pairs of boots and having your lunch in the first team canteen, and walking around people like Paul Ince and Gary Pallister and all these huge people. That 3 or 4 years of being a professional footballer at Middlesbrough, they were a bit of a blur. And if I'm honest with you, I didn't, probably 50-60% of the time, I didn't enjoy it, because you're on a train and it's going 100 miles an hour, and you have to juggle so many things. You have to juggle, not being living at home. You have to manage that. You have to be the best player who trains every single day, because we train 2 or 3 times. Sorry, every day. But sometimes we did double sessions, and sometimes you got moved up to the 19s. And I played, a fair few games in the reserves, and you just couldn't take your foot off the pedal. Every single day had to be, you had to be relentless with it. And you tend to not enjoy it. Now, when I look at people playing football, and certainly in the Northern League, there's a lot of people who do it for the wrong reasons. And I went down that route with certain clubs, but actually, you've got to enjoy it, because I'm 40 now, and what I'd give to be back 16, 17-year-old again, doing it again. It just goes like that. And playing on my computer and these iPhones and all that stuff is great, but I'm telling you now, there's nothing better in the world than playing football with your friends and being successful. Success is now not measured on how successful you were or what you won. Success is based on did you turn up? Did you have the right goal? That's not what the generation was when I was growing up. It was all around, you have to win. If you go and play a sport, you're not winning. It's not enjoyment for me, and I'm trying to instill it in Harry and Evie when they play football, and my little girl plays football and rugby, and I take it way too seriously on everything I do. But I don't see that drive from people nowadays, because it's not a priority. Being a professional footballer, what I did for 5 or 6 years was, wow, that was the best thing in the world.
It's amazing. Like you say, I mean, we've done a couple of video vlogs now, and I know we've been chatting to Sunderland West End. He says, why don't you come down one training night? We do a off-topic thing where we do lads video, we do a crossbar challenge. You can join in. And as soon as he said join, I thought, right, just give us 4 weeks, and I tell you, I'm going to make sure I'm going to go out and run every single night and get fit, just to because if that's how we were brought up to be, you've got to go out there and show what you're about. But it's just a different kettle of fish now. Some other questions coming in, which we'll go through in a very short period as well. Back to Whitley Bay now, and we have to chat about the 2008-2009 Vars final. Obviously, captain lifting the trophy at Wembley. When you go into the game with that team that you had, I mean, the strikers, Lee Kerr, Paul Chow, the lads must have been confident. What was it like in them training rooms going into that game?
Yeah, well, I rejoined in that season, and I remember meeting Chan in a pub next to Newcastle Airport, and we sat down, and he just said, "Look, I want to sign you, but you aren't necessarily our best player now." Because when I left because, again, not being big-headed, but I was Whitley Bay's, my opinion, and I was our best player. Chan said, "Look, you're now coming into a dressing room which is successful. You don't have to do things by yourself." And looking at the players that we had, like Chowie and Sparky, Adam Johnson joined later, Paul Robinson, Davy Cools. I could name the whole side.
Amazing, isn't it?
That first year where we won. I know the previous year we got beat off Lowestoft in the semi-final over double leg, and the first year we won it, we got Lowestoft in the semi-final, and we won the first leg. We won the first leg 2-1. And then we went down to Lowestoft in Norfolk, and there must have been 2,500 people there. It was a proper non-league, 2 of the best sides in the country going at each other. And Sparky got sent off after maybe 10, 15 minutes. And I think they scored in that period. So you can imagine it's now 2-2. We're down to 10 men. Chan's chucked a few different positions and different players. And then we get a corner about 35 minutes, and luckily I get up and I score. And I just remember running over to the Whitley Bay fans, and the whole advertising board just collapsed because there was that many people trying to get on the pitch.
Yeah.
And 45, 50 minutes was the longest 50 minutes of my life, because we were just hemmed in. We were just defending for our lives. We had Terry Burke, Lee Picton, David Coulson, Mark Taylor, myself, Damon Robson sitting in there thinking, like, we're never going to get out of this. And then luckily the final whistle went. And the realization that you're going to go to Wembley, you know, and I don't think it actually sunk in until we went and we arrived there, but absolutely amazing. The first year, Glossop, we just fancied ourselves, if I'm honest. We had an age profile of probably 26, 27, 28. Everybody was in their peak. And
good time, isn't it? Mm-hmm.
We were a big physical side. I remember me and Davy Coulson, the two centre halves. We'd scored nearly 40 goals between us that season. It was phenomenal. We had a really, really good side. We had a manager who just rolled the dice on any occasion. I mean, I remember, you know, fifth rounds or quarterfinals, Chan would take the two fullbacks off if it wasn't going well after 15 minutes, and you put two wingers on and two wingers on front of them, and just say, right, Leon, Davy, or whoever it's going to be, you do defend, and the rest will go and attack.
Yeah.
So yeah, we went to play Glossop, and I think we were 2-0 up at half time. Sparky and Chowie had scored, and I think it was maybe 17,000 there, and you're playing in a full, on a big pitch, and you're looking around, and it's the brand new Wembley, and we were really comfortable. It was so strange to be in a final of that magnitude. The first North East clubs, I think, since Whitley Bay, maybe 2002 or 2004 when I won. And we were just, the whole second half, we were really, really comfortable, because we had a team and a system and a manager and a coach and a set of fans who were all, the whole aim was to win the Vase. And again, winning the first Vase was just, you know, I've been fortunate enough to win 3, but the first one takes some beating, because you just have that overriding feeling, and when that final whistle's gone, that's it. And you go up the steps, the now famous steps, and you've won a national competition. Yeah, it's not the FA Cup, but it's the equivalent of a non-league FA Cup, and you know, to have won it once was a dream come true.
Good party afterwards.
Yeah, it was actually. we stayed at the Village Hotel in Watford, I think, and yeah, we went back, and I think, I'm just trying to remember if my little boy was born, and I couldn't bring him on the pitch because some stupid security reasons you're not allowed to bring them on. But we went back to the hotel, and we had I don't know if the chairman put on a free bar. Knowing him, I don't think we did. It was brilliant, and I remember getting the bus home, the long journey home, which didn't, you know, we didn't care if it was a 10-hour journey, because we just drank the whole way.
Yeah.
And then we were getting text messages and phone calls to say, you know, all of the fans are outside Hillheads when you pulled up, and we did. We got out, we held the cup there, and it was just, you know, for people who's been there, or for people who's played non-league football and know what that feeling is. If I could bottle it, you know, you'd be a squillionaire 10 times over.
Definitely. Hard times, Leon. Hard times. And that's from David Coulson, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, Davy was a captain the first year, and to be honest, Davy would have been captain the second year. Unfortunately, he's done his cruise ship. Just a wonderful player. He was, you know, he was a really, really good captain, and I was devastated that he didn't get the opportunity to play him a second final and captain. But luckily, the armband came to me, and you know, being captain at the second cup final, and the real poignant moment, and when you're engulfed in it, you don't actually think about it. But going up the stairs and sharing that moment with Mark Taylor, lifting the trophy, and everything he's gone through, that was, you know, when I'm now sitting back as a 40-year-old, as a dad of 2, and you can actually reminisce about what it was and what he's fighting to lift a trophy with him was without doubt, certainly from my point of view, the best football and feeling that I've had.
Amazing. In 2010, in Spinney, at that time, really building something, you could really see things happening there. Was it an easy choice to go and join them? I know it was a 10k fee paid as well, which shows you kind of the ambition that Spinney had at that time to go and push on. Was that an easy choice to go there?
Yes and no. I remember it took me about 3 weeks to message and phone Chan and tell him, because I played for Hetton Lions, and in that season, and the second Vars, from a personal point of view, I was captain of Hetton Lions, which won the All England Sunday Cup at Anfield. I was captain of Whitley Bay at St James's Park when we won the Northumberland Senior Cup, and I was captain at Whitley Bay when we won the FA Vars at Wembley. So all in one season, and we just beat the Spain, all of the boys, and a couple of the management team, and for whatever reason, I just didn't think Whitley Bay would win the league. I knew what was coming around the corner, and I guess to an extent I've been proved right with what Spennymoor did and have done subsequently. It was a really, really tough decision. I'm probably not giving my best answer, but it was a really tough decision because I'd won of ours 2 years in a row. We'd done absolutely everything, and for me, and I was obviously wrong because Whitley Bay won of ours for the third year in a row. And I thought we'd peaked. If I was perfectly honest, I thought we'd peaked. And I looked at the squad and I thought, is this as good as it's getting, or as good as it got? And obviously, I was proved wrong. But the reason I went to Spennymoor is I'd never won the Northern League up to then. And for me, and I guess whatever level you play at, if you win the league, you're the best side in my area. And Spennymoor again had an array of talent, and the majority of them were Hetton Lion boys, which we'd been successful in winning 3 All Englands as well. You had Jason as a manager. You had Brad Groves, who's still the chairman now, who was a friend as well. But yeah, the fee, I think it was close to £10,000. I guess you're not involved in them. That's between the two clubs, but that's always nice to be a part of.
Definitely.
So yeah, it was a tough decision, but I guess for me it proved right because I won the league and I won the Vars with Spenny as well.
No, really good. Even getting on to the Spenny, a couple of more comments coming there. Tony Carter, Coulson Leon, best centre halves at the time in the league, and Craig Robson, just great player. A few clap your hands there as well. There's a couple of.
It's a Craig Robson. I'm thinking of. He was a very, very, very good player.
Yeah, we had him on a couple of weeks ago. He's only getting night for us doing the Newcastle review as well. Absolutely cracking lad he is. Brilliant lad. A couple of questions from earlier that we just went by there. Tony, again, best team that you've played in and against, and best forward that you've played against.
Best team will be the 2013 Spenny or the 2000 and I think it was 2009, 2010 Whitley Bay side. Both sides we were big. Well, Whitley Bay side was a real physical side. We dominated teams physically. Spennymoor were very, very direct football passing side. So them two teams, I can't split them, and I'm not going to try and split them because I'll get pelts on the other side. Best forward, you know what? People like Adam Johnson and Chowie and Titch, they were good players. But Jamie Clark, who I was fortunate enough to play with Hetton Lions, he always gave me a tough time. He scored a hat-trick against us on my first ever time I played against him when I just came into non-league. And we had really, really, really good battles every time I played against him. He always gave me a tough time. I don't know if it's because we were mates, but it was he was really, really good.
Excellent. And Stephen, from your time in the game as today, isn't right? What's the most notable difference that you've seen?
The standard. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of non-league football, but the standard. I think we were speaking about it just before we came live. We were spoilt, and I guess non-league footballers were spoilt at the time because you had Gateshead and you had Blythe. Obviously, Darlington were doing their own thing at the time, and Hartlepool, and obviously the 3 big clubs in the North East. But nobody, there was no desire to go and play higher because you had Shildon, Spennymoor, Dunstan, Whitley Bay, Bishop Auckland, West. You had really, really good sides in the Northern League. Who the money was always good, but the standard was fantastic. And I think that in and around the time that Whitley Bay was successful in the Vars, you had Dunstan who won the Vars, another great side. West Auckland, I think, had lost 2 finals in a row or thereabouts. Subsequently, Morpeth won it and South Shields has won it. There was no and play higher. So you had, for me, the best players in the North East at the time, bar maybe 10, 15 players who played for Gateshead and Blythe. The standard was every single game. every single game was tough. You had Bedlington Terriers. I remember when I first came in, who were just head and shoulders above sides. I don't think they lost a game that season. You had Dunstan, who were just a fantastic side. So the standard was brilliant. Now, every game I've seen, and I think it's the same as society. Everybody looks the same. Everybody wants every team I see want to play out from the back. Every team want to go to midfield and then go to the full back, and that just didn't exist when we played. Yes, it did, but it wasn't the go-to. At the moment, everybody's now the turn the nose up if you have to turn people around the corner, or turn the nose up if you nick a goal early and you have to defend and win a game 1-0. The old sort of style of football's gone out the window, and I play rugby now, and I don't enjoy bar watching my son and daughter play football, or watching my United on the telly. I don't enjoy it because it's not the game that I was brought up in. I remember my dad taking me to Sunderland games, and it was blood and thunder every single game. It was always jeopardy. There was always something to playing for. So, and I might be doing the non-league scene a disservice, and I probably am. But the teams I've seen now, the standard, none of them, not one team in the Northern League now would survive playing in the era that we were successful in. And I'm pretty sure people will have an opinion on that, but they just wouldn't survive because the standard is nowhere near.
Yeah, I think that answers Tony's question there. You just mentioned the quality of the Northern League now, and Stephen just mentioned that. It's refreshing to hear how good a standard Northern League was. It was, like you say, it was absolutely fantastic in them days as well. About halfway through now, just before we get on to Spenny and a bit more information about them as well. I mean, hitting 22, watching live now, absolutely fantastic support all throughout the night. Keep getting them comments in as well. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe. Help us hit that 700 subscribers as well. Getting back to Spenny now, and I mean, 4 great years with Spenny. 3 Durham Challenge Cups, 3 League Cups, 2 Northern Leagues, 1 Vars. Great chairman, managers, players. Why was it back then and even now is the club so successful?
I think the infrastructure. I think clubs, a lot of the time when you see wealthy chairmen coming in, it's built from the top downwards. So coming in and spraying money around and getting players in, it seems to be the easiest way of doing it. That's not what Brad did. He built an infrastructure. He had the right people in. He obviously had Jason in, who he'd known for a long time, and he could trust. But he had people on the committee and on the board and in and around the club who were Spenny fans and Spenny people. Yes, Brad and people at Spenny were impatient. They wanted to win everything there and then. And to be honest, we won a trophy every single year, at least one trophy. But it was done properly. It was done organically, if that makes sense. And I'm sure people will be hearing this saying, well, actually, Brad came in and flooded the market with money, and the wages were astronomical and nobody else would compete. That's how Spenny was successful, possibly. But that wouldn't have continued to be as successful as they are now if that was the mantra. Everything was done properly. It was always a purpose. Definitely. It was always a review at the end of the season. It was always right. Who do we go out and bring in next? And I remember when I was speaking to Jason about coming to Spenny. It's probably one of the only times that I've ever doubted my own ability in terms of I had Chris Mason, I had Lawsey, I had Steve-O. So 3 really good centre halves. And I was thinking, well, where do I fit in here? So it was tough. Whitley Bay had some really, really good players, but you just turn it up a notch because these were all, top-notch non-league players, and you throw into the mix of, the likes of Callum Griffiths and Capper and Lewis Dodds and Bobby Moore and, Titch and people like that. It was a really, really tough environment to come into if you were a new player. And luckily, I'd been there 3 or 4 years, but you saw it. Every new player coming in took a little bit of a time to hit the ground because there was some big personalities there who'd won a lot of trophies and played a lot of games. But it was a really, really professional outfit. Whitley Bay was my best experience of football, and everything was football because Whitley Bay didn't have anything else. It was football. Spennymoor had, their plan wasn't to succeed in the Northern League. Their plan was to win the Northern League, win the next league, and it obviously goes to show where they are now. And I'm not saying Whitley Bay didn't have that thirst to be successful, but I think they had a lane in the market, Whitley Bay, and they knew we were going to be successful to a certain degree. But I think Spennymoor always had plans to accelerate that and get up as far as possible. And as you can see, we've done it.
Definitely. I mean, the next point as well, the points total, like he's got to have to write these down because they're absolutely fantastic. I mean, 2010-11, win the league, 103 points, 2011-12, 97 points, and then second in 2012-13 at Darla, but still on 109. It's absolutely, when you think about not winning the league on 109 points, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, what was it like winning the league twice, but also that battle with Darla that year?
Well, funnily enough, the first year we won it was the first year that I joined, but it was against Whitley Bay for us to win the trophy. Right. it was against Whitley Bay, which is just, it's funny how it works. And I just remember, and to be honest, I've got the picture of me lifting the trophy, and it's in Harry's room, my little boy's room, and I can see all of the Whitley Bay players are sort of surrounding the trophy along with the Spennymoor players, and it was a really, really poignant but strange moment of winning it with my new side, but against the side that I just left. And it was great because they were sort of patting us on the back and saying well done for winning the league. But I think they were just about to head off to Wembley, a couple of weeks later to go and compete in the third phase. So that was a really, really good moment. The season that we played against the Darlington came into the league. I actually went on loan to Crook because I had a period of time where I wasn't playing well. I wasn't justifying playing on my side, and we had some really, really good players. And I went out to Crook on loan, again playing back into the league below. And I just got me enjoyment and me enthusiasm back, and I got back into the side. But Darlington were just a juggernaut. I think they won the league. I think they might have lost one game. They were getting 2,000, 3,000 people at every home game.
Madness,
I think they were sharing a ground with Bishop at the time. But again, that was we welcomed that. We didn't say actually there's a new team to the party, and these are spraying the cash around, and it was good. We wanted that. We wanted to play in games against top end sides, and they were very much what Spennymoor were doing, trying to accumulate the best players to be successful.
Oh, it was really good. And back to Wembley in 2013 Vars final, the support I remember Spenny had that day was absolutely unreal. 2-1 win. Just how was it good to go down there again, the build-up? And I've got to ask you obviously about the Guernsey playing right as well. I know we've had a few players on who's mentioned the nightmare that it was, but what was the build-up like, and obviously the final as well?
It was great. I mean, going back to the Guernsey trip, to get a double leg semi-final in Guernsey. I mean, this is not just a little trip down the road or down the M25. This is, Brad this is how ridiculous it was, and this is how dedicated Brad was. Brad chartered a flight for us to go to Guernsey. And I remember we stayed in Guernsey. It was literally like being in the middle of nowhere. And it was absolutely lashing down with rain. And believe it or not, Guernsey I'm sure you've heard this story, but because we'd made that trip, and I think because the FA would have, charged them X amount of money, they hired a helicopter to hover over the pitch at Guernsey to remove the standing water on the pitch. I was absolutely mental. And Guernsey were, everybody were talking about them, saying, this is the best side it's been at this stage or this level of football in the last 10 years. And we went down there in their own backyard, and there must have been, 2,500, 3,000. And we just schooled them. We beat them 3-1. One of their boys got sent off for elbow and titch. We just dominated them from the minute one. Really, really. I mean, they were a very good side, but we were. Again, we never, none of us ever thought we were going to lose that game. Mm-hmm. It was just one of those really, really good feelings when we stood in a tunnel next to each other and we just looked at we're not losing this today. So getting a 3-1 lead and then getting them back to our place. And I think it was a Saturday night. Believe it or not, it was a Saturday night game. And again, the Brewery Field was full capacity. And young Andrew Stevenson came off a bench, I think, and scored. And then the scenes after that, knowing that Spennymoor was going to Wembley was fantastic. And Brad, he hired the Hilton Hotel opposite Wembley, booked out the function room and the roof terrace bar. We had the best suits, the best coaches, the best journey down there, and everything was geared to win that game. We knew what they'd be like. We knew because I guess they were closer to Wembley. They'd bring a good proportion of fans. And again, another final. It was 2-1. But again, that was as comfortable a 2-1 as I've ever been involved in. We conceded a stupid goal, maybe 10, 15 minutes to go. And I think we got a little bit of a shock because we were in cruise control and we should have killed them. We should have killed the game 2 or 3-0. And then Rasha got the winner with maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to go. And that was just pure relation because the other 2-1s, the first 2-1s were Whitley Bay, the game was wrapped up at half time.
Yeah.
There was no jeopardy. Leading up to the final whistle, I wasn't begging him to blow his whistle because I knew we'd won the game. Well, this one was a really, really anxious couple of minutes, and we ended up winning the game. And then we did an open top bus tour around Spennymoor, which was which is obscene. I mean, anybody outside of the non-league football or even outside Spennymoor at the time, you think get over yourself, an open top bus. But this is a really small, I guess, a small town in County Durham. Have never experienced anything like this. Their local side playing at the National Stadium, and as far as the eye could see, there was people out in the streets, wishing us well and raising flags, and just a great time to be part of Spennymoor Club then.
Oh, it's really good. And signed back at Whitley Bay in 2014, clubs are on mid-table, and you also take a charge period as manager at that point as well. Did you enjoy your time in management?
Yes and no. The first 3 months we ended up getting to the League Cup final, and luckily the league was like a centurion year. We ended up playing at St James's Park against Mask. So being a manager of a team in a final is a completely different feeling because you're not just then responsible for your own performance and your own build-up. It was picking the side, which was really, really tough. Obviously, I had to pick myself, but it was really difficult. I remember we got beat and I got sent off the last minute and to this day, whenever I see the referee who reffed it, I will never forgive him. He gave us the most ridiculous decision I've ever seen, and they beat us 2-1, I think it was, in the final. And it was so tough because I'd so used to being in my dressing room as a player, and a lot of the experienced boys had left, and we had a very, very young side. And I found it very difficult to separate the player or old captain coming in the dressing room and shouting and bawling as opposed to being the manager. I found it really, really difficult. I think if I had my time again, I'd do it differently. And if I get back into management, which I'd like to do somewhere along the line, I'll be a different manager for it. It was the highs and lows, and it's just everything about the training sessions, fielding the phone calls and the text messages, sorting out people's wages and contracts, speaking to the board, making sure that, the strips and everything's prepared, dealing with the fallout of leaving people out the squad, and these weren't just people who I'd inherited. These were people who had played not just that season, but, 2 stints at Whitley Bay. But I guess you don't have bad experiences. You have learning experiences, and there were life lessons. It was harsh. It was harsh reality of non-league football, and chucked in the deep end. And I guess there's a tinge of disappointment that I didn't continue it. But I was really proud to manage an absolutely fantastic club.
Oh, really good. And for me, one thing I absolutely love when obviously you next go to Rye, you win promotion to Division 1. With obviously your great mate as well, obviously the late Gaz Pearson. I mean, when you look back, when I was writing this, the amount of trophies, finals, that must have really stuck out. Looking back now, as one of the great memories going up with Gaz from Rye up to Division 1.
Definitely. I remember I'd resigned from Whitley Bay, and on the Tuesday, I think we just got humped off North Shields 4-0. So it wasn't my greatest moment of my life. And I remember Gaz picking the phone up and phoning us on the Tuesday, on the Wednesday, the following day, just as a mate, just to make sure I was fine. And, we had a chat about it, and he just said, right, what are you going to do? And I said, look, I need a couple of months just to, get my head on. He said, no, what you need to do is you need to come and sign for me at Rye. Get back on my bike and go again. I was like, no, I really don't fancy it. And Gaz being Gaz, I said yes, and actually we went, and it was 3 first game, we went to Northallerton, drew 1-1, and I scored. We ended up coming fourth, I think, that season. The following season, Ripe had never been in the Northern League.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the biggest challenges, not just for Gary and Stewie Gooden at the time, and the chairman, Darren. That was one of the challenges that really stuck out to me. I'd never played in the second division, but I'd never got a team promoted because I'd never been in a division low enough to want to go and get promoted. And actually, you find out that the second division is very similar to the first division in terms of, there's a hierarchy, and then there's a group of middle teams, and then it was a really, really enjoyable time. And we would have won that league. I think we would have won that league at a canter if it wasn't for South Shields. Obviously, South Shields just came through the leagues, and they were throwing money to get them promoted. So if it wasn't for them, we would have won that league. But nonetheless, we got promoted in second position, and being part of that, alongside Darren, the chairman, who was a fantastic chairman, and obviously my best mate as a manager, and Gary. Was a really, really good memory. Although I guess it's insignificant to the other stuff. For me, that's as important as anything else. Especially now that we've lost Gary. That memory now becomes even greater, and there's even more significance to that success. And what Gary done with that club, because you got two clubs in Ribe, in Sunderland. So you got Ribe CA and Ribe CW, and it was all self-funded by the chairman. If we had 25 people coming through a gate, we were lucky. So it was a club very, very ostracised from everything else that I've been used to.
Yeah.
It was a mentality of, look, it's us against everybody else here. We're going to have to do it the hard way. So we managed to sustain ourselves in the Northern League, and then for me, the job was done, and in my opinion, we kept Ripe up. I think we were middle of a table or just below middle, and that was a huge result for us. That was Ripe had won the lottery, getting people like Gary on board because of what he'd done to elevate the club from a Wearside league into a Division 2, into the Northern League. It was really, really good memories.
No, really good memories, and I mean that's the part of writing the interview, and I love memories. I think that's what football's all about. You can go to the pub, and something will pop in your brain off like 10 years ago, or there's a certain minute on a bus travelling to a away game and stuff like that. But one of the things I was writing down, I think I've got to mention this towards the end, is that the 2009, obviously, Captain Whitley Bay at Wembley, Captain Whitley Bay at St James Park, and Hetton Lions at Anfield, all in the same season, and when they absolutely lost. I mean, walking into your local, going out for meals, I mean, I would have been walking on like Bertie Big Bollock, but like that must have been some feeling.
It was brilliant. I mean, all the stars aligned for that to happen. It was when we were getting to the latter stages of all of them, I was thinking, how good would that be? And I remember we had the St James's Park was the first one, and we won obviously, and then we had the Hetton Lions one at Anfield, and then the one at Wembley. It was it was. I mean, that was. I guess if that was me at the peak of my powers in terms of the non-league football, it was just I was playing the best football. I was captain. Just everything that we were doing as a team, on all three of them finals, none of the three finals were in doubt, and it was I was honoured because everywhere I've went, I've always been captain, and that's something I've always found very comfortable being captain. You see captains now who. It's a different world that people are in now. You can't, like we used to dig each other out, and we used to point fingers and dig each other out and shout each other out in changing rooms, and that was acceptable. And I got blamed as much as anybody else, but I was very, very fortunate that all of the success I've had, I've been fortunate that I've had really, really good people, good clubs, good fans, good coaching staff, and good managers. But actually, all of that pales in significance when you go over the whitewash. It's up to you. And we were lucky enough; we had really big characters and good players. And when step up, someone always did. And luckily, in them three finals, we did, and we won them by playing really, really good football. And I was just a player at the time that was given me armband and given the responsibility to pick the trophy up. And I'm not underplaying that, but I also need to, be aware of how lucky I was having them players, because it was easy to captain them sides. You know, when you're winning all the time. In that season, I probably lost 4 games, and that's a huge feat. Obviously, getting to the final in cup competitions, that has to be done. You can't lose or you're out, obviously. But even the league, even in that season, we were second, I think, in the league. And again, I can't remember who won the league, but I think it might possibly been Spennymoor. I can't remember. But if we weren't in the Vars, we'd have probably won the league that year, because the Vars just took over. That was all we could think about, going winning it again.
No, absolutely class. Fantastic. Just before we get into the quick fire round, finally we've got to mention Hetton Lions as well, which we had a lot of former players on. Great side. 3 All England Cups, 8 County Cups, 8 Durham Leagues. I mean, I know I was playing for Sherburn at the time, and it was quite nice going to see a Durham side going down and the success. It was kind of proud to have them teams in our league at that point. But playing it yourself with their group of players, you must have been proud of the success that you had at that point. Yeah, I mean,
I guess we were really unpopular side in the North East from a Sunday League side. You know, we were getting paid, and that's not secret information I'm giving away. But you ask any one of the Hetton Lions boys, and we've had quite a few reunions over recent months and weeks because of losing Gary. Every single one of us would have done it for nothing. And to be honest, you know, not one player who played for Hetton Lions during my period of time ever did it for the money. It was like playing for a professional football club, you know. But we had training kit. We had the best. We used to play in Real Madrid strips to make
people hate us
more. You know, we had Barcelona and Real Madrid strips. But again, Brad was involved. You know, he was Mr. Hetton Lions. You know, moved on to Spennymoor, but everything we did was geared to win the league, the County Cup, and because we had 25 top Northern League players, you know, we would have 2 different sides. We'd have a County Cup side, then we'd have a different 11 for the league. We'd have a different 11 for the All England, and it never mattered who we played out or who we put out. We always won. We were really successful. We were spoiled, you know, and I try and put myself in a position of someone like yourself who played for the side outside of Hetton Lions. You know, it must have looked really unfair, because it was. You know, we just hoarded all of the best players and said, right, this is our goal. We're going to win the league, we're going to win a County Cup, and we're going to win the All England. And we did. And Hetton Lions, you know, I was lucky enough to win it 3 times. The one and the 4th time at the Stadium of Light, actually, which was really good to go and watch the boys. But it was like moving from a Saturday football to a Sunday. We never looked at it as a Sunday league football, because you looked around the dressing room, and it was all the best players from each pick of each player in the Northern League. And you know, we had some amazing battles. I remember going down to a team called Nicosia in Liverpool. And whenever we played Liverpool, we always were away from home. And it was Kevin Nolan's team, who the ex-Newcastle and West Ham.
Ah, yes, yeah.
And he had like all of, I guess, Liverpool's best non-league sides, and we were saying, all right, you know, Hetton Lions, you're going to get turned over here. I remember going and beating them like 4-1 in their own backyard, and then going back to Kevin Nolan's pub and walking in, saying, like, who are you boys? You have just come here and destroyed us down at Liverpool. So just amazing memories. Hetton Lions is up there with everything I've done with Whitley Bay and Spennymoor. Hetton Lions is right up there, because it's some of the best people, not just footballers, but human beings you could ever meet. You know, and that's what non-league sport or football, even if you just drill it down to football, you know, all of my friends now, whenever Louise and I go out, there's always somebody I know wherever I am. And that's not just me, because, you know, that's anybody in the non-league. You speak to anybody, and Louise will be, how do you know him? Through football. now it's how do you know him? It's because it's through rugby or football. But it just gives you it gives you a really, really good standing in the community, because everybody's got that to relate to. It doesn't matter if you played Sunday League football or you played professional or semi-professional. Everybody had that common goal at the time to play football. And, you know, I dread to think if I never played sport, you know, I'd be sitting in the house by myself, and I'd have no mates.
Oh, that's it. I mean, my memories of Hetton Lions, I mean, I think I was only about 50. Well, I shouldn't have even been playing. I think 15, 16. 70 at the time when you're meeting outside the pub, going to the away games, and you think, where's such and such? Oh, he's not coming today, he's injured. He's not coming today. And I used to be buzzing thinking, I'm going to go and play the best team in the league. And then people like, Can we just call it off?
Yeah, it was a bit like that. Yeah, I felt like that.
Quick fire. Really looking forward to this round. So 5 questions that we're going to go through as well. So number 1, the best manager that you've worked under.
I'll give you 2, and the reason why Gaz, not just because he was my best friend, but from a tactical point of view, he just, and as a player's manager, you ask any player who's played for Gaz, the best man manager ever. Not just because he'd have you back if it was a scrap, but he was he was a proper football man. And Chan, you know, for all of the things he could do and what he couldn't do, what Chan did better than anybody else is he rolled the dice. You know, we were 20 minutes into a game and it wasn't going well. He'd just take 2 centre forwards off and put another one, or take the full backs off. He just had this habit, and it's not luck, because you don't win, you don't play as a player and win 3 vases in the Northern League and X amount of cups if you're a lucky manager. He had a really, really good coaching staff, and Steve Cuggy and Gavin Feld, 2 of the best people you'd ever want outside of a manager. 2 really good footballing guys who had Chan's back. The 3 of them dovetailed off each other brilliant. But what Chan did better than anybody else, he just went with his gut instincts. And sometimes you can have all the stats in the world. Chan just pressed the button and took a gamble, and 10 times out of 10 it worked.
Number 2, best teammate that you've played with.
Gaz again, and I know people will think just because he's my best friend and he's passed away. Again, he just, when I came to Durham, he just left Darlington in York, and he showed me what it was like to be a Northern League centre half. He told me, right, Leon, you're on crap money. I'm going to take you in to see Andy Gowans at Durham, and I'm going to get you double money. And he did. But all the little nuances in how to be a non-league footballer, Gaz had it, and he played centre midfield in front of me, and he just said, right, I'll stand on his toes, and ball come up, I'll wall up him, and you head it and look really good. And honestly, he was just the most selfless individual I've ever known in terms of being a footballer. And I guess you do a straw poll of people who's played with him, and nobody else would swap him for anybody else. And I've played with a lot of good players, and Paul Robinson's probably the person who comes close to Gaz, because Robbo could just, you know, he was a typical. He had all of the talent in the world, lazy sort at times, temperamental at times, but he could just win you a game like nobody else at that level I've ever seen. You know, and I'm probably doing a disservice to hundreds of players I've played with.
Oh, I bet there's loads.
When I saw that question, I genuinely had to give it loads of thought, because, you know, there was been so many, but them 2 were ones that really stood out.
Excellent. The best opposition player that you've played against who you just couldn't get the best of?
Jamie Clark, I mentioned it. You know, people like Titch I've played against, and Adam Johnson and people like that. But just Jamie Clark had something about him. He wasn't lightning quick, but he was strong, good in the air, just a natural finisher. Yeah, I would say Jamie.
Number 4, best luck with this one. Best footballer moment.
I'm going to try and encapsulate it into that season, that 2008-2009 or 2009-2010, the St James's Park, Wembley. But if I had to pick one, it would be the one I captained at Wembley, with being captain from a purely selfish point of view, but now knowing exactly what he's been through, having the honour of lifting a trophy with Tails. Well, you know, if I'm honest, nothing should and wouldn't ever come close to that.
Excellent. And number 5, your funniest footballer moment.
Probably his Tails nearly tripping up down the steps holding the cup, because he called it. He'd called it. I think he said something like along the lines, "Don't let me carry this because I'll trip over," and he nearly did. He did.
Oh, class. But Leon, thank you so much for coming. It's an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and some cracking stories, memories. Absolutely fantastic. One of my best friends we've had on. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for coming up tonight.
No, my pleasure. I'm very honoured to have been asked. Really enjoyed it. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Excellent. And same for the viewers as well. Some cracking questions coming in. A few people mentioned there. Great talk show. And again, thanks, lads. Thank you, Tony, again for your support as always. Stephen Hopper, top content as always. Another cracking guest. Well done, reading, cracking insight into Leon's time in the game. And Stuart Purvis, great show, lads. Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, the support that we've had tonight, 20 plus pretty much all night. So really thank you so much, everybody that's watching. If you haven't already, or if you're watching back, please hit that subscribe as well. The players keep coming. Thursday night, former teammate Stephen Copper.
Yeah.
Cracking player, yeah.
One of the best, you know, the most angriest, miserable player I've ever met in my life. But just thought he shouldn't have played at our level. He was too good to play at our level. He was really, really top draw. Great lad as well, Cap. So I've got so much time for him.
Excellent. And then Sunday, Mark Anderson, obviously former current Spenny player as well, coming on. Some cracking stories travelling over America as well for that one. And we just pretty much fully booked up February now. I know I couldn't go too far in February because I've already booked my train down to London for Wembley 2 hours before the first leg the other night. So I took a gamble, but I think it's paid off.
Well, hopefully I'll see you there because I'm a big United fan. Not Newcastle.
I'll definitely see you there. But no, again, thank you everyone very much for watching. We're back on again actually in about 20 minutes with the review show going back over the last couple of Newcastle games as well. So if you are a Toon fan, get yourself joined in for that as well. But everyone watching, and again, Leon, thank you so much for your time tonight.
No, appreciate it. Thank you very much.